Bend and Scoop is brought to you by Harder Concepts, the best bars in North Dallas. Eat, drink, party harder.
I love Bend and Scoop, man.
You want to hear some music? You'd like that, wouldn't you? Well, today you're going to get all the music you want.
The request lines are now open. KGFJ Soul Radio.
Do it now, man.
Request lines are up.
It's open, man.
Got any Blue Oyster Cult?
No, I don't have any Blue Oyster Cult. I ate 34 pairs last time around. Where were you? I was that close to working at 7-Eleven, you know.
Pass the word along. Tell the men it's time to shoot the moon.
Shoot the moon!
Out there on the microphone. On the microphone.
Shoot the moon. Shoot the moon.
The attitude dictates that you don't care whether she comes, stays, lays, or prays. I mean, whatever happens, your toes are still tapping.
Hey, Strawberry! Oh, Strawberry. Hey, what's happening, man? How you doing? This is my friend.
Hey, how you doing, man?
What you looking at, man?
Oh, nothing. I wasn't looking. I wasn't looking at his neck, man.
Can you honestly tell me that you forgot the magnetism of Robin Zander or the charisma of Rick Nielsen?
That's kid stuff.
Kid stuff. Well, how about the tunes? I want you to want me. The Dream Police. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Build your muscles picking strawberries. You know, Bend and Scoop. Maybe I could get you a job with United Fruit. I got a buddy with United Fruit. Start with strawberries, you might work your way up to these goddamn bananas. When, boy, are you gonna get your act together?
We're creating a society of cell phone crazed, marijuana smoking zombies.
Coming to you not quite live from Lukewarm Tallboy Studios deep in the land of Gar, this is Bend and Scoop, the podcast featuring music, mirth, and minutia, focused on exposing artists you probably haven't heard, but should. I'm Bob, and I'll be your tour guide on this amazingly asymmetric auditory adventure as we journey to the center of your cochlea. Welcome to episode 53. 1 year ago, we aired our very first episode. Bend and Scoop is brought to you by Harder Concepts, the best bars in North Dallas. Visit one of the 5 great Harder Concepts locations in DFW, which includes Scruffy Duffy's and Ringo's Pub, both at the shops at Legacy and Plano, Saintsbury Tavern at Austin Ranch in the Colony, the Mucky Duck at Addison Circle in Addison, and Addison Ice House at Vitruvian Park in Addison. All 5 Harder Concepts locations have great food, live music, an amazing beer and spirit selection, and a wait staff that's second to none. Whether you want to hang out with old friends or meet some new ones, there's no better place to get together and watch your favorite sports or hear some awesome tunes. Eat, drink, party harder. Joining us at the end of the show to play a round of Is That Your Vinyl Answer? And the Groovin' After Party will be our very special guest, Matt Rudmann from the Combing the Stacks podcast. We spread the gospel of vinyl here at Bend and Scoop, so be sure to tell us all about your favorite neighborhood record store by posting to @BenScoop on Twitter or Instagram using the hashtag SpinMomandPop. Our record store of the week is The Sound Garden in Baltimore, as recommended by our special guest, Matt. You can follow them on Twitter at The Sound Garden, on Instagram at SG_BMore, on Facebook at The Sound Garden Store, and you can check out their website at sgrecordshop.com. Atlanta is home to Predator, whose brand new album, Spiral Unfolds, includes this banger, Hands Reaching Out, on Bend and Scoop.
Paranoia on display.
Sunshine smiling on you. You and your man and your music keep the clouds away. With WEEI-FM 103.
Clam with 2 M's from Melbourne, Australia there with Liar off their latest record, Beseech Me. Pausable Deniability is a monthly podcast I co-host with my pal David Miller, which you can follow on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all at Pause Deny. We post new episodes on the first day of every month. Our June episode is all about the great Apple TV Plus series Mythic Quest. This next tune is by The Safes from Chicago off 2017's Tasty Waves, called Hometown, here on Bend and Scoop.
I used to hate myself when I loved someone else. I'm back up on the shelf. There is nobody else. The sky is up and you look down. Half empty cup for your hometown.
been getting along just great.
Yeah, he likes you.
He told me all about Monica.
How do you know about Monica?
I think this is for you. Darling, you are out of eggs and cottage cheese. I'll pick them up tomorrow. Love, Monica.
Oh, that Monica. She's my maid.
She sounds very efficient.
She's terrific. She comes in twice a week and really clears the decks.
Trims the sails.
Blows the pipes.
How long has she been doing all this?
Well, she won't be back. Monica drowned this morning, and,
Just like that, huh?
yeah, I think we both knew it was coming, and it's kind of sad for both of us. How about a joint?
No thanks.
You sure? You know what they say. Cops have the best dope.
From Athens, Georgia, that was Future Birds with Wear It Out off their 2020 LP Teamwork. Campfire Songs is a podcast where I get together with my buddies Todd, Jim, and Tom to share and discuss songs with each other. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Songs Campfire and give us a listen for more great music. Up next is Brooklyn's Jason Lowenstein of Sebadoh with this track from 2017's Spooky Action called Machinery on Bend and Scoop.
Jason Lowenstein has something you need.
Elton John, Murray Osmond, Rolling Stones, Jim Croce, Ringo Starr.
The music sounds best on KSFA.
Sitting there waiting, you don't ever turn up on time. Never have I known someone who's ever been so unkind. Hey, I don't need that kind of loving. No, I don't need that kind of loving. My girl
Raining Sound there from Memphis with I Don't Need That Kind of Lovin' from their just released album A Little More Time with Raining Sound. How Many is a podcast where I get together with my friends Jesse, Junior, Gary, and Scott to debate a variety of pop culture topics, including movies, sports, TV, music, and more. You can follow How Many on Twitter at How Many Podcast and listen at howmanypodcast.com. A band from across the pond that we featured in a previous episode, Holiday Ghosts, has a brand new record out called North Street Air, which contains this fantastic tune, Off Grid, here on Bend and Scoop.
How can you be so gullible? You have got albinos chasing you down the street, prowlers breaking into your apartment. Don't you see? They're only after one thing. They want to get into your pants.
I don't think so.
And now you have this cop inviting you down to the station house on your lunch hour. You think he's not going to try for a little nookie?
He's really nice.
Gloria, I'm your friend, right?
Right.
And I wouldn't steer you wrong, would I?
No.
Take these. Without them, you are a walking light bulb waiting to be screwed.
I used to feel like I was too sensitive to even be
That was Seattle's palindromically named Taco Cat with Hologram from 2019's This Mess Is a Place. Have you ever wanted to host a podcast? Well, all you have to do to join the Mike Hunt and host your very own episode of Assume the Juxtaposition is send me your topic idea to lukewarmtallboy@gmail.com. You can follow Assume the Juxtaposition on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all at AssumeTJPod. And don't forget to stick around for the end of the show when we'll be joined in the Groovin' After Party by our special guest, Matt Rudmann from the Combing the Stacks podcast. Here's a jam by Brooklyn's Dead Stars off their 2020 LP Never Not Here called Dreams Don't Come True on Bend and Scoop.
This is unreal. Hey, you've got to hear this. Just listen to this car stereo. The power's incredible. Oh, Feel that bass. The highs are so clear. And that's the FM. Just wait till you hear how fantastic Sanyo makes my cassette sound. His Sanyo's unbelievable. Auto reverse, metal tape.
The great sound of Sanyo car stereo brings people together for the better life.
Sanyo.
Toronto's Marvelous Mark there with I Don't Know from 2016's Crushin'. If you want to listen to all this great music without having to hear me blather between songs, be sure to check out our Bend and Scoop Spotify playlist. If we played it and they have it, you can listen to it there. And if you enjoy listening to what we do here on Bend and Scoop, please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you get your podcasts. If there's ever a Friday morning that you don't see a new episode of this podcast available for your listening pleasure, you should call the authorities to check on my whereabouts because I've likely been the victim of foul play.
I play detective. You play lady in distress.
Hey, wait a minute. It's my ass they're after.
I'm sorry. You're right. That was a stupid, glib, chauvinist remark, and I apologize. It is your ass they're after, and it's my job to see to it that I get there first.
This is Foul Play. And this is Foul Play. Foul Play, a new comedy thriller starring Goldie Hawn and Chevy Chase in his very first motion picture.
When you first saw me, what did you think?
I thought you were a bore.
I'm kind of a nice guy, and you're really a very lovely girl, with or without your cleavage. And Golly, what do you say? Would you like to take a shower? Careful here, this is very slippery at night.
Okay.
Just hold on to a rail or something.
Okay.
What about before that?
Before?
Yeah, when you very first laid eyes on me, what were you thinking?
I thought you were a klutz.
Excuse me.
Oh, you know something? I'm really glad that you were assigned to protect me.
pretty well.
You do your job very well.
Thank you.
Foul Play, a new comedy thriller coming this summer from Paramount Pictures.
Said you want to talk like the earth stopped. Let's take a walk. Are you afraid you'll get caught? Can't stop the clock. The power of his thoughts. It's a long way down to his old beach house. Play with the turtles. Play with the turtles. You don't wanna stop. We went in the parking lot. We should have saved it now, but you don't know how. You're gonna be good enough if you're gonna be good enough.
People listen to people. So listen, people.
Welcome to the Groovin' After Party. Come on in and pour yourself a cold one.
Joining me now for a Groovin' After Party here on Bend and Scoop is Matt Rudmann from the Combing the Stacks podcast. Welcome, Matt.
Hey, Bob, how you doing?
Doing great. Tell everybody about Combing the Stacks. I was actually a recent guest. I was very pleased and honored to get to talk about who's next on one of your recent episodes. And you guys have a great podcast. Tell everybody about it.
Oh, thanks, Bob. And thanks for having me on today. It's really happy to be here. So our podcast is Combing the Stacks. It's been going on for almost a year now. I think we started in June of 2020. And it's kind of the brainchild of one of my co-hosts, my friend John, and along with our friend Josh, we are doing a weekly podcast in which we are basically starting with the 1960s. We are covering a variety of albums, the top 100 albums of the decade, as determined by the website besteveralbums.com. It's kind of like a Metacritic for record albums, where they compile a bunch of best of lists from all kinds of places, from journalists and magazines to just regular listeners like us. People can go in there and rank their albums. And so each week we cover 3 albums. So one of us will be assigned an artist or assigned an album, and we will cover that album. We'll do a little bit of history of it, a little history of the artist, and then we talk about our reactions. So we've covered the 1960s already. We're in season 2 right now, and we are, about 4 or 5 episodes into the 1970s. And so that's when we had you on, because I know when you talked to John, when he was on a while back, he invited you on for any one album, and your choice was the Who's Next from 1971, which is what we just covered a couple weeks ago, I think. So
yeah, I know it's fortuitous timing because as we talked about on your episode, the Apple Plus series on 1971, the year that music changed everything, was released right around the same time we recorded the episode. So it was really nice timing to talk about it and then get to go and watch that as well.
Yeah, it's crazy timing how and occasionally that's happened here or there with like a documentary or something that's just happened, or somebody that just passed away, or somebody that just got in the, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, like things like that, that just kind of came up in our conversations as being very, timely. So yeah, it's been kind of, it's cool to watch that documentary as well, to kind of, to give us a little bit of research on what we're covering.
So do you guys divide those up in some instances based on kind of personal preference? Like when you started the 70s, each of you maybe said, okay, I definitely want to make sure I'm doing this album, and that one, or do you, like you said, is it more kind of assigned per person?
Yeah, actually, when we were getting really, just into it, we blocked out a couple hours and we all sat down. We looked at all the albums from the 1960s through 2010s, and the original intent was to, once an artist was assigned to one of us, we would cover that artist's albums through perpetuity. So any other album that would come up, we would be responsible for them. So gives us a little bit of consistency, makes the research a little bit easier. So we become the de facto experts, if you will. But yeah, we did that. We started doing that with the 60s. And then one day we were just like, you know what, let's just plan this out, because sometimes artists will jump back into other decades. Like we're going to be covering Dylan in the 70s with Blood on the Tracks, even though we covered him a bunch of times in the 60s. And so that also helps us make sure that we're, it's not an exact order in terms of the countdown. We kind of jump around a little bit. So that way, like I covered the Beatles, for example. And so if you look at the Beatles rankings on best ever albums, they have like in the top 10, they have like 6 albums or something like that. The top 10, it's a little bit much. So there's no way I'm just going to be covering, 3 Beatles albums in one episode. So John has a way, we have a spreadsheet that we go by. So we jump around a little bit, but yeah, we all cover, once we have an artist assigned, we keep that artist for future episodes as well.
And typically it's 3 per episode, right?
Yep. We do 3 per episode. And then we got a little bit more adventurous earlier this year because Rolling Stone came up with their list of top 500 albums. And we realized that a number of those albums were not in the best ever albums list. And one of the knocks that I think that we found with best ever albums is that it's very male heavy. It's very white heavy. And so when we start to cover, stuff in Rolling Stone, we're getting a lot more female artists, a lot more artists of color, a lot different genres and things like that are kind of underrepresented, I guess you could say, in best ever albums. So we do a segment called Cold Lists and Hot Takes, where we take those albums that made Rolling Stone's list, but not best ever albums list. And we listen to those albums once. So that's the cold listen. And then we give our hot takes on that album. So it mixes it up a little bit for us, gives the listeners a little bit of a different flow. And so we do one of those episodes every 3 weeks. So we kind of are interspersing that. And there's a lot of albums in the 70s that are in that Rolling Stone list that are not best ever albums. So it's been great because it's really exposing us to a lot of different music that we wouldn't, otherwise have exposure to.
Yeah, it really is a great way to cover a lot of those records that would have been missed otherwise, for sure.
Yeah.
So Matt, let's learn a little bit more about your own personal musical journey and play around with something we like to call, is that your vinyl answer? What's the first record you remember buying with your own money?
I'm not sure if I bought it with my own money. I think I may have, but I definitely remember the first time I actually walked into a store and bought an album. It was in, I believe, 1986. So that would have made me 8 years old. And I believe it was Madonna's True Blue was my first album that I ever bought. It's kind of interesting if you look at, and that was on cassette tape. I started off buying cassettes, and I would get a bunch of them. I was big into like 80s pop music. So Duran Duran was my first, love. I got, some Duran Duran cassettes for my birthday or Christmas. And then I got into hair metal. I had my hair metal phase, like the Motley Crue and Rat and all that stuff. So I got a bunch of those. But the first one that I think I remember buying was Madonna's True Blue. I think everybody's got their favorite Madonna phase, every guy, at least anyway. And mine was definitely the 1986, the white haired Madonna, the True Blue era there. And I always liked the songs from that album. So that was my first tape that I bought.
Do you remember where you bought it, and do you still have it?
So I bought it. I'm from a small town in upstate New York. There was a department store that's no longer there now. I don't even think it's in operation at all, but it was called Ames, the Ames Big N. It was just this department store that had a very small music section in the side there. And that's where I got it. I was with my brother. He took me there, and forget exactly what he got. I think he probably got something as well. But yes, I got to where I got it, and I do still have it. I pretty much have all of my albums, whether it be tapes and CDs or whatever. I rarely have gotten rid of any of the music that I've purchased, much to the dismay of my wife, who's calls me a closeted hoarder of sorts. But yeah, so I do still have it. Yes.
That's awesome. Now, who do you own the most albums by, and which of theirs is your favorite?
My favorite artist of all time is the Beatles, and it's probably them because I do own all of their studio albums. And when they did the anthology series a while back, a couple decades ago now, I guess, I got all those. The one, they always seem to be re-releasing. Oh, here's just another Beatles album that we're just, that we just did. And so of that, the listeners of my podcast would know that Abbey Road is my favorite. We covered that, and that's the highest ranked Beatles one. That was the number one album in the 1960s. And I was also surprised to find out that my friend John, who I always thought that Help was his favorite album, he found out doing our podcast. He's like, no, I changed my mind. I'm with Matt. Abbey Road is the best Beatles album, or our favorite anyway. So
also my favorite Beatles album.
Is it?
I'm glad to hear that getting some love. For the longest time, everybody was on the Sgt. Pepper bandwagon, and
yes,
then Revolver was kind of the trendy number one Beatles record, but shows you how great a band that you are when you have so many different options.
Yeah, and that's the thing with the Beatles, as far as I'm concerned. Like, there's really no wrong answer, because I think you could theoretically make an argument for just about any album that they have. But yes, I think that's, Sgt. Pepper for a while, that's the one. But I just remember years ago, I was just in the car and I was listening to the way that the medley on the second side of that record, the way that was playing and all kind of coming together. Just one of those moments where you're kind of like just by yourself in the car, the sun's out, and you're just feeling it. And I'm just sitting there and going, this is it. I love everything about it. I love that they all contribute to it. Ringo's got a song on there, and Octopus's Garden. That's a great tune. Some of the best Harrison songs with the Beatles are on that. And it's a happy album, right? Because one of the things that we talk about in our podcast about the Beatles is, and going on into the 70s when they go their separate ways, they didn't really get along. And it was kind of, tumultuous several years there. And I don't know, I'm kind of a nostalgic, sentimental kind of guy. And I like, having happy memories of the Beatles and them getting along. And Abbey Road's kind of overall, it's kind of like a happy sounding album to me. And, that's another reason why I like it a lot.
Side 2 is exactly why I love it so much too. Just like you talked about, one song goes into the next, and you've got all different tempos and styles of music. It's great. I love it.
And they reintroduce parts to it. The "You Never Give Me Your Money" part kind of jumps in a little bit later, and stuff like that. So it's there's callbacks and stuff like that. And people kind of say sometimes that even Lennon, I think, hated the second side. That was kind of more of McCartney's deal. But I love it. I don't know. I get why people might not like it as much, but I think it works out really well.
Yeah, me too. Is there a specific album, whether it's by the Beatles or any other artist, that you've purchased more times than any other?
I've thought about this question because I heard you with your other guests and stuff, and I think I have like a 5-way tie, oddly enough, but it's for the same reason. So it's between the Beatles and Genesis. I'm a big 1970s Peter Gabriel era Genesis fan, and so with both of those artists, I bought all their albums on CD, and then when they re-released them, they digitally remastered them and put them in a box set. I bought them then, and then I bought LPs when I started getting vinyl. So it's I would say that it's Abbey Road, Magical Mystery Tour, Sgt. Pepper, and then the Genesis albums would be Nursery Crime and Selling England by the Pound.
Okay.
So for those albums, those 5 albums, I have 3 copies of them.
Who has the biggest vinyl collection of anyone you know, and what size is yours?
Mine's actually not very big. I've kind of had mine's a little bit on pause. I probably have like around 40, maybe 50 vinyl pieces. I need to get a better setup in I moved a couple of years ago, and I kind of have a small area downstairs where I have my record player kind of set up. It's a little tricky right now, and I also have a 3-year-old who gets into everything that she's not supposed to. So I don't want to be getting too much into the vinyl right now. So it's a little bit on pause, but I would probably say it's either a tie between my friend Kevin and my friend Josh. Both have collected vinyl for a while. My buddy Josh, he has several. He probably has like 200-300, and he started a collection many years ago when we were in college. He got into DJing, and he would like be spinning records and stuff like that. He had like a double turntable, and he would play around with stuff like that. And his collection's gotten pretty substantial, at least compared to mine. I don't have a ton of friends that collect vinyl, but I would probably say it's a tie between those two guys.
What would you ballpark their size is?
It's probably like around 200-300. I think that's what my buddy Josh has. I don't know if Kevin has quite as many, but every time I go to his place, he's got a nice little setup there, and these kind of like these IKEA bookshelves, and they're just filled with records. So he's always going out getting records too. So
what's your favorite mom and pop record shop?
I lived in Northern California for a while, and I really liked Amoeba Records in Berkeley. That was the first one where I was kind of like and that's where I really saw, I think for the first time, like just a ton of vinyl. Like that's when and that was probably back back around 2000, 2001, somewhere around then. And I would just walk in there. I was like, this place is great. It's got so many different sections, and the amount of vinyl that they had, I was like, I'm not used to seeing this, in the record stores that I would go to, like at the mall or whatever. And then there was also one, I also lived in Baltimore for a couple of years, and they've got it's not as big as Amoeba, but they have a really great record store called Soundgarden in the Fells Point area of Baltimore. And they just had always a great selection of things, and, really knowledgeable staff and stuff like that, in a really cool area of Baltimore. So I always liked that one as well.
Now, we've got one brand new question that, Matt, you're going to be the first one we've ever asked.
Oh, okay.
Just the other day, it occurred to me because I heard a song and I'm like, this is my favorite cover song of all time. And I'm kind of now curious what other people's favorite cover song of all time is. So what would you say yours is?
Oh, man. That's a great question, because I love a good cover. You know what? I'm going to, so this, I don't know if I could say that this is my absolute favorite, Bob. I would probably have to think about this for a while, because that's a great question. But I would say, I'm going to tie this a little bit back into our podcast, because several episodes ago, we covered Otis Redding's album Blue. Yeah. And I got a lot of flack from my co-host on it, because I was not feeling that nearly as much as they were. One of my main reasons for that was, it seemed like, because he covers Satisfaction on that, the Rolling Stones Satisfaction. And he also does, it's his version. He's the original writer of Respect. And I never really heard those versions before, and I knew Aretha Franklin's Respect wasn't her original song. It was a cover. And that song, to me, that is Aretha Franklin's song. Yep. You know what I mean? And so when I heard Otis Redding's version, the original, like the guy who wrote it, I was kind of like, it's okay. And I'm like, it's okay, but it's not Aretha, So I had never really heard it before. And my co-hosts were very much like incredulous. John had to turn his microphone off at one point because he was just yelling at me so much. That one just stands out just in the context of our podcast. So I would have to go with that, because she owns that, she made that song totally hers. I think that's a good distinction too, that I sometimes come up with, is that your favorite versus the best, right? So going back, I say Abbey Road's my favorite Beatles album, but can I say that it's the best? I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, well, I don't know, the White Album might be the best. It's the most eclectic, and it's just got so much stuff going on, or Sgt. Pepper. That's the one that a lot of people went to before, saying, because it just broke down so many doors and was just so surprising. So I sometimes have to make that distinction, because when I talk about stuff like this, saying, well, this is my favorite, like I would rather listen to this, but I also, like, objectively, the objective part of me can acknowledge that that this is also, that this other thing here is actually better.
Now, Who's Next is an exception. That is my favorite, and it is the best.
Bob, that was impressive, because you were just like, it's not that the Who's Next is the best studio album, Live at Leeds is the best live album, and Tommy is the best concept album. So you were definitive, like no question about it. And so I totally respected that. That was great.
Matt, how can people follow you and Combing the Stacks on social media, on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, wherever?
Our main social media feed is on Twitter, so you can follow us on Twitter at Combing the. We also have a YouTube channel, so we'll post some of the clips, from the episodes that we've done, just as single album segments on YouTube. So Combing the Stacks has its own YouTube channel, and we also have a email account that we invite people to send us comments or sometimes one of the segments that we do on the podcast is called Cleaning the Stacks. So that's the segment where we, clean up any mistakes or make any clarifications from the previous week's episode that we might have missed, or because there'll be things that we'll be talking about in the episode and we'll think, I never thought of that. We'll give you the answer to that next week or whatever. So sometimes people have given us information and we've talked about that. It's like, actually, somebody told us that we were a little bit wrong about that, or they gave us a little bit more clarification. So we encourage listener feedback as well. And that email address is combingthestacks@gmail.com.
Thanks so much, Matt. I really appreciate you being on.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun, Bob. I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Don't worry about it, guys. It's all in the mix.
Bye-bye, lardass.
Bend and Scoop is a production of Lukewarm Tallboy Studios.
We will return tomorrow morning with the sun.
Good evening, and have a good life.